Hi VC, it's Rob here with another video, and this video is a vinyl find, so stuff I've picked up probably over the last 3 months. A bit of VCLT at the end, and probably maybe chat about the coronavirus at the end of the video, see how I'm feeling. Know it's affected everybody, I'm no different. So yeah, let's get on with the music. A lot of people posting stuff on VC, some people maybe on lockdown, different places across the globe, and yeah, I'm still working, I'm really busy, and yeah, but I'm not sure whether things are ever going to be the same again. Now, let's get cracking with the music, and I've got a lot of stuff to show. This video could be a really long one, but you don't have to watch it all in one go. You can watch it in snippets. I know that's what I do from time to time. So I've got a lot of stuff here, and let's get cracking with the first record. Now, there's a record shop that I've mentioned before in a place called New Mills, which is about a half an hour drive from me. Bookshop upstairs, the owner Adam, and downstairs a guy called Alex, who's always putting stuff on Discogs, cleaning records, putting records out. Every time you go in there, there's new stuff. It's really well priced, and yeah, when I first joined the VC, I uploaded loads of videos and loads of different ideas, and Hannah, the Omaha introvert, did a video which was 5 bands that he didn't like. So I named 5 really popular artists. I don't think I'm going to go through them now, but if you know my channel, you probably guess who they are. And one band that I mentioned that I'd not really got into properly was Pink Floyd. I have a CD, kind of a best of compilation, and there were things on that I liked, but Randall Weaver, great channel on the VC, he sent me Dark Side of the Moon, and that sort of sent me down a rabbit hole of buying metal. Got a DVD, Pompeii DVD recently. Picked up Animals as well, showed it on my last video I think, and when I was in the shop, I saw a copy of this album. So yeah, a little bit of a sort of social distancing going on there. So Wish You Were Here from 1975, and this was a really good price. I've been looking for a copy of it, but I was able to play it in the shop, because when you buy an album like this, you don't want to have any noise, and it's a really nice copy. And when I was listening to it, it sort of it wasn't strange to me. A lot of the track, well, there's not that many tracks on it, but it was pretty familiar. Really enjoyed it. So this is my 4th Pink Floyd album. And when you look at and watch the VC, people have a lot of praise for this album. There's also, if you look at the best of, highly rated, there always seems to be the same 5 albums. So the one that's missing really for me is The Wall. So I haven't got that. Maybe I'll pick that up this year sometime. And who knows, I might even delve into the 80s stuff. So yeah, really pleased to pick this up. So yeah, Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. Now, I did a video recently where I was showing my favourite albums from each decade, and I showed this album as my favourite album from the 1990s, and I only had it on CD. So it's this album, and it's Wildwood by Paul Weller. And this is my favourite album from the 90s, and I didn't have it on vinyl. I went to a record fair in Stockport probably about a month ago, and I can't remember how much money I took, probably about 80 quid. And the first stall that I went on, I recognised the guy. He has a really sort of pretty high quality sort of stuff that he sells. And one of the first records that I spotted was this one, and as you can see, for £25, and I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good price. It's a VG copy. I mean, if you go on Amazon, you can pick up Paul Weller albums, but you can't pick this one up. I'm not sure whether it's been reissued or not, but I never sort of see it floating around. So it's kind of like this gatefold thing, but the record comes out from there. Nice picture there of Paul with I think that's Steve White, maybe some of his children there. This album was from '92. The lyrics there, and there's the custom label. And when this album came out, Paul Weller released his first solo album, which was a bit of a mishmash, but it was a good album. But this one really stepped up. Sunflower, the opening track, was a single, big hit. Wildwood, title track, amazing song by Paul. But every track on this album, all the pictures on the wall, Foot of the Mountain, Shadows of the Sun, just a top Paul Weller album. He's releasing a new album, I think in June. I'll be interested to hear that, because his last album I wasn't a fan of at all. So, but this is my favourite Paul Weller album, so obviously to find it on vinyl, I was delighted. So yeah, Wildwood by Paul Weller. Now, a bit of a compilation here, bit of fun, and it's rhythm reggae. And this is a compilation, came out in '81. It's on KTEL. So I saw this in shop in Rochdale. I was looking at the track listing. It's got The Bed's Too Big Without You, and I vaguely remember a reggae track, the Police track, of course, Sheila Hilton, and I thought, yeah, I want that. And there's, you know, UB40 are on here, Dream Alive. And UB40 get sort of slagged off a little bit, but their early albums, Signing Off and Present Arms, and I think there's a Present Arms dub album, really good albums. I mean, there's an awful song on here, Just When I Needed You Most. I think it was Randy Van Warmer. Just because it's a reggae version doesn't make it any good. We've got Third World on here, Jimmy Cliff, Steel Pulse, Dennis Brown, Eddie Grant, Toots and the Maytals. It's a really good compilation. So yeah, please find this for a £5. Rhythm reggae. Now, in the sort of mid-80s, I was a big fan of the Smiths. Got all the 7-inch singles, all the albums. Most of them now are with my son in Sheffield, and I've decided that I do see the 12 inches knocking around, and I want to start buying the 12 inches, but they're not cheap. But I was at Manchester Record Fair probably about a month ago. I saw this one, The Boy with a Thorn Inside, and I really liked the fact that it had this inner with it as well. And the B-side is Rubber Rings and Asleep. So I was talking to the guy, he had it at tenner, but he said, oh, I'll do a deal on, and I ended up getting it for £7. So I'd like to get all the Smiths 12 inches. This is the first one, so you know, over the next 18 months or so, I'm sure I'll be showing one or two more Smiths 12 inches if I can find them at a good price. So yeah, probably my favourite band from the 1980s, the Smiths, and The Boy with a Thorn in His Side. Now, the VC influences you on what you buy. It's unavoidable. If you watch the VC as much as I do, then huge sort of artists and genres that you never really paid much attention to can be, you know, things that you're interested in picking up. And blues is a genre that before I joined the VC, I don't think I had any blues. But I picked one or two things up, not a lot, but I saw this compilation. And it's 19 tracks from the film Chicago Blues. And this is on a gatefold, and I really love this, the artwork. And on the inside we have some of the artists there. And it's a double album, and it's on the on this label, which is probably some sort of budget label. Red Lights, I think that says. So for someone like me who's kind of dipping his toe into different genres, a compilation like this is, you know, a good starting point. Muddy Waters on here. Don't have any Muddy Waters albums. JB Hutto, Buddy Guy, who and Junior Wells. I picked up a compilation with them two on recently. Mighty Joe Young, Johnny Lewis, Johnny Young. So those are the artists, and I really enjoyed this. Like I say, when you are dipping your toe into different genres, it's I mean, anything by Buddy Guy at a decent price I'll pick up. Muddy Waters also, but yeah, something like this is a good starting point for me. So yeah, I'm really pleased to pick this blues compilation album. Now, a band I talk about a lot on the VC, I'll just show these quickly, is the Inspiral Carpets, and picked up a couple of 12 inches, so picked up Dragging Me Down. So I think this is probably the most well-known single by the Inspirals. I do love a good penguin, and this has a free insert with it as well. So I think it's from 90, might be 93, this, 92. And like I say, it's probably the most well-known track by the Inspiral Carpets. So I've got all the 7-inch singles, but again, never picked the 12-inch singles up. So I think this was £8, but yeah, really pleased to pick this one up. And then for a lot cheaper, I picked this up in Sheffield. It's another. This one's called How It Should Be, and this one's from, I think this was from 93. So when I was in the record shop, I was chatting to the guy in Sheffield, and he said, you know, your accent sounds like you're from the other side of the Pennines, and I said, yeah, I'm from Oldham, and he said, yeah, I wondered picking up the Inspiral Carpets, probably the most famous band from Oldham. Barclay James Harvest are from Oldham as well, but give me the Inspirals any day. So yeah, this cost me £3, so yeah, please pick that up. Now, one of my favourite channels on the VC is, I didn't mention him actually when I did my shout outs on Bill's The Vinyl Versus contest, is John, Digital Gramophone. I absolutely love John. I think he's got a bit of a unique channel. Love everything about the guy, and yeah, every time John does a video, then I watch it. I'm not sure about his taste in music, sometimes a bit up and down for me, but yeah, I'll leave that alone. Now, on his last video, or one of his most recent ones, he showed this album. So it's the Doves and The Last Broadcast, and the Doves album's got reissued last year, I think it was. Well, this one's numbered, and it's on orange vinyl, and this came out in 2002. I do like a little bit of orange vinyl. So the Doves were school friends, Jim Goodwin and the Williams twins, and then they met up again in the Hacienda and formed a bit of a dance outfit called Sub Sub. Had a big hit in the UK, Ain't No Love in 93, but their studios burnt down in 96 in a place called Ancoats in Manchester, a place I know really well. So they sort of got back together again as a band called Doves, and they were pretty successful in the UK. This was a #1 album from 2002. I think the next album, Some Cities, was a #1 album as well. They're one of those bands that you never sort of hear people say, you know, yeah, they're one of my favourite bands, you know, they get sort of forgotten a little bit. But they're a great band, and they reformed. They never really split up, but they sort of had a break. But last year they did a lot of festivals. Never got to see them live. I actually had the opportunity to go and see them live with the Super Furry Animals and another band. I can't remember when that was, maybe 12 years ago, but I put it off and did something else, and that was a big regret, because hear nothing about but good things about the Doves live. So I think there may be an album coming out this year, so fingers crossed for that. But this I mean, this album, if you don't know the Doves, well worth checking out. I know David Newton, fan of the Doves. Words, track 2, it's an amazing song. There Goes a Fear, track 3 was released for one day, and those sales made it get to number 3 in the UK. The M62 song, if you're in America and you're looking at that and scratching your head a little bit, the M62 is a road, motorway should I say, between Hull and Liverpool, and it's the highest motorway in the UK. It gets very bleak up there in the winter time, and it's very close to where I live, the M62. So song called Pounding's on here, a great closing track, Caught by the River. This is a really good album, and I paid a tenner for it, so I've been sort of holding out, hoping I'd see Doves at a good price, and for a tenner I couldn't leave it there. So yeah, last broadcast by the Doves. Now, what we got now? Now, the next, I've got 2 records here by this artist, and I watched a documentary on this artist on Saturday, fascinating documentary on BBC Two, and this artist is someone who's really shown a lot on the BBC. In about 20 years ago, I started to get into this artist. I got a box set, but I never really bought much, if any, vinyl by him until I joined the BBC. I've picked up probably about 3 albums by him recently. Yeah, I picked another couple of albums up by him, and I'm talking about Miles Davis. So this is Sketches of Spain. And I picked this up for £8, and I bought this from a shop in a place called Bury, which is just outside Manchester. Now, I didn't really know much about this album, but it was a good price. It's Miles Davis. Okay, it's got that hype sticker on there. It's in really good condition, but I kind of knew that it was sort of pretty slow tempo. And while listening to this, to me, it's really much like classical music, if you like, but enjoyable. It's not the sort of thing you're going to come home every day and put on, but it's the sort of record that I wanted in my collection. If I see any Miles Davis at a good price, then I'll pick it up. He's a hugely influential artist, troubled past, of course, lots of drugs problems, and a history of domestic violence. But his music, for me, pretty groundbreaking. He's got his critics. Some people in the jazz arena don't really rate him, but I do. I mean, I'm not a connoisseur of jazz, but I class myself as a Miles Davis fan more than a jazz fan. I'm trying to get into more jazz and listen to it, and you can pick it up for a decent price, but sometimes it's knowing what to buy, and that's where the VC comes in handy. Now, I bought this album. I got it off Amazon. I was streaming it, and I knew about this album. I knew that it was special, but it's this one. So it's on the corner, and I've not even opened this. So this came on Tuesday, and I've been streaming this for a while, and this had so much negativity around it when it came out. Like I said, I've not actually opened this, so the artwork, just when this came at work, people were just looking at it and pretty amazed by it. So this is from 1972. I'm sure a lot of people know about this album, and this was the album that came out after Bitches Brew, and Bitches Brew was just going in a totally different direction really for Miles Davis. It took a little bit of getting into, but it was really successful. I think it might be Miles Davis' biggest selling album. This one came out in 72, and this one was slated. But this sort of jazz fusion, there's a sitar, drums, electric guitar. It's special. It's sort of, to me, like a bit like Sly and the Family Stone. Something about it to me, it's a classic. But like I say, at the time, it was derided. And there's not many tracks on this album, but you sort of lose yourself. And to me, it's a must-have if you're into sort of jazz fusion. You know, you can listen to this, and every time you listen to it, you hear something different. So yeah, On the Corner by Miles Davis. Really pleased to pick that up. Now, this is a little bit of a sort of similar kind of buy in a way. So an artist who does get shown on the VC, but not talked about that much, is Santana. So again, saw this album for £8, and Santana is an artist that before the VC I was aware of. Knew he was a really good guitar player, but he was someone who had not, I don't think I had any music by him at all. But this is the sort of album that I want to have in my collection. Sort of, I've been looking at albums by Santana, looking online, reading about sort of which one are his best, and I think it's 38 albums that Santana's done. But one thing you do notice is all these early albums are classified really as his best albums, and this one's from 1969, and this doesn't disappoint. I really enjoy it. Again, I have to be in the mood, but yeah, really pleased to add this to the collection. So yeah, Santana by Santana. Now, I do pick up 12 inches, but sometimes, I mean, I picked this one up for a tenner, and when I'm driving home, I'm thinking, what have I paid a tenner for that for? I could have got a decent album for that. But this is a 12 inch that I've never seen before, and I just saw it and had to grab it. So it's Blur, and She's So High. It's a double A side with a track called I Know. So this was Blur's first single, and I can remember when Blur came out, because I remember the first single I knew was There's No Other Way, and I got the CD Leisure, and I've sort of followed the career all the way really. No surprise really. I mean, when Part Life was such a huge success, there was the duel with Oasis, but I've always preferred Blur. Coming from Manchester, maybe surprised, but I always preferred Blur over Oasis, and I just think Damon Albarn's something special. I've got all the Gorilla albums, most of them on vinyl, and I'm a big fan of everything he sort of does. You know, all Blur's albums I really rate. It'd be difficult to choose a favourite. But when I was listening to this, I was just reminded that it's from 1990, and the track I Know, which is sort of the other side of the double A, is very much like the Stone Roses. And you can hear the influence there. But picking 12 inches up, I mean, I don't go out looking for things like this, but when I see them, I just think, I've never seen that before. If I leave it there, I might never see it again. So I had the money and I picked it up. So yeah, She's So High by Blur. Now, what we got here? This is, so when I go out buy vinyl, I always try and buy a few sort of cheap albums. Just, if I spent 40 quid and I've only got 4 albums, but then if I spend 45 quid and I've got about 7 albums, I feel a bit better about it. So I'm always looking for cheap records, and I saw this for £1. I don't think I'll spend £1 better than this. So this is an absolute gem. Billie Holiday and One For My Baby. So I didn't have any Billie Holiday in my collection, and I knew her voice. Is it an acquired taste? Maybe it is a little bit, but this is really sort of whetting my appetite to maybe pick up more Billie Holiday. Sort of, again, another troubled life, prostitution, drugs, you know, surrounded her, controversy, but she had a unique voice, and for £1, I mean, this is on the Music for Pleasure label, and it's in immaculate condition, and it's a really nice collection of songs. So yeah, Billie Holiday and One For My Baby. Now, I told you this was going to be a long video, quite a lot of stuff, and VCLT coming up, and a bit of a chat about coronavirus. So finally, on the pickups, Richard McCook, of course, I always talk about him on the VC, does influence me, and he's a fan of Mott the Hoople, and I saw this album, Mott the Hoople, and this is from 1974, and I'm just looking there to see who plays on this album. Nobody that I'm really aware of. But so Richard really praises Mott the Hoople, and Richard's taste and my taste, they're not identical. It's more of a, we share the passion. But when I saw this, I thought, yeah, I'll grab it. You can feel a book coming here, can't you? And it's got a really nice insert there, considering it's from 1974. Really good condition. And the hype sticker there tells you that Golden Age of Rock and Roll and Roll Away the Stone open and close the album. So they were songs that I was aware of. So I started listening to this, and to be honest, I was cursing Richard. I mean, I know what Mott the Hoople sound like. My sister was a big fan. She went to see them. My sister is 5 years older than me, so when I was 10, when this came out, my sister was like 15, 16. I mean, she was a fan of Queen and Rainbow, so I don't want to hold it against her. But I knew about Mott the Hoople, all the young dudes, and Foxy, I think, and a few other ones. Can't quite remember them. Really good singles. I was listening to this and I'm thinking, what have I done? But something happened, and as I'm listening to it, I started to enjoy it more and more. I could hear Suede on here. I don't know if Richard's ever drawn that parallel. I could certainly hear Roy Wood from Wizard and Move. I'm not a massive fan of Roy Wood, so, you know, but I've listened to this a few times and it is growing on me. It's got a great song on here, Trudy's song. I really love that song. And there's quite a few other good songs on here, so I'm pleased I picked this up. It's got a really nice sleeve as well. So yeah, Mott the Hoople from 1974. Now, we've got a bit of VCLT, and so on the VC meetup, me and Steve Syke from the Valley got on really well. Spent a lot of time chatting, and yeah, we swapped addresses. And while we were chatting, Steve's a big fan of XTC, and I said, you know, I've not got Apple Venus. And Steve was singing its praises. So when I came home, I ordered it off Amazon. So yeah, Apple Venus from 1999, and this was reissued a few years ago. But listening to this, it's the reason I didn't have this in my collection. I'm a big XTC fan, but I knew one day I'd get this album and it'd be like just getting XTC had just released a new album. I mean, there's another album that came out similar time called Wasp Star, and I'll get that in a couple of years. But for me, this is just like as though XTC have released a new album, so it's an absolute joy, and it's very, very high on quality. So if you've not, I'd never even streamed this album before, so I class myself as an XTC fan, so a bit of a crime really. So you get a nice insert there with the albums, and there's a lyric sheet as well. But yeah, really pleased that conversation with Steve sort of whetting my appetite to pick up Apple Venus by XTC. Then you know how these VC meetups go when you swap addresses and such like. So Steve sent me some goodies, so I thought I'd share them with you. So he sent me this book, Complicated Game, which is inside the songs of XTC. So it just goes through all the songs with anecdotes and little tales about each song. This is my sort of book because you can sort of dip into it. There is some illustrations in here as well. But Steve said he had an extra copy of this, so you know, for him to send this to me, it's really generous. And this is the sort of book that if I ever go on holiday again, who knows, yeah, if I was out of the country, this is the sort of book I'd take because I could just dip into it and you know, read it for 10 minutes and really enjoy it. So yeah, Steve, really grateful for you sending that. He also sent me a CD, which is I always forget what it's called, The Magical World of the Strands. So sent me this CD, and on here are a couple of guys from a band called the Pale Fountains and Shack, and yeah, I've had this in the car. Really enjoyed this, so thanks for that, Steve. And also a couple of records, really generous. So I said in one of my more recent videos that I wanted to start buying the stuff by the fall. So yeah, me and Steve were talking about the fall. So this is a 12-inch single called White Lightning with 3 other tracks, Zagreb, Blood Out of Stone and the Funeral Mix. So I've been looking at a few fall 12 inches, and it was really funny when you know, I opened my package and there was a fall 12 inch in there. So yeah, great 12 inch by the fall. And also then Steve sent me this, which is a compilation album. And again, I sent Steve a compilation album, sort of psychedelic. So yeah, quite funny really. And this was issued in '95, sort of part of a series. Jump Jive, Harmonise, Teenage Shutdown, 18 pounding, pulverising, all-out garage punk dance ravers from 64 to 67. And it's still in shrink as well. There's a lot of American bands on here, some quite obscure sort of records, and really enjoyable. Didn't know any of the songs, never heard of any of the bands, but you know, it stopped me enjoying it. So yeah, Steve, really grateful for you sending me that compilation album. Now, just a quick word about the coronavirus. It's affecting everybody. A lot of people posting maybe more videos on the VC. I mean, the VC is maybe a bit of a godsend in these times, listening to records, enjoying music, socialising with people on the VC. For some people who maybe can't go out, you know, it's a great thing. I mean, I've got a newspaper here from the weekend. So, in this newspaper, it sort of gives you some ideas what to do. Stuck at home, you know, things to do. Doesn't mention the VC here. He just says maybe watch some box sets if you've never seen The Sopranos, Better Call Saul, Inside Number 9, you know, Seinfeld. So if you've never seen any of those DVDs, box sets, and a lot of people like watching box sets and stuff, you know, what to get for your cupboards, you know, get your onions in your beans and pasta and, you know, all these essentials that you need. Just interesting to maybe read more. Pretty difficult listening to podcasts, of course. But, you know, the thing that worries me about this coronavirus is, you know, and it's quite a grand statement, bold statement if you like, is are things ever going to be the same again? You know, and I don't think they're ever going to be the same again, because the way I look at things is, over the last 40 years, society has changed pretty dramatically. You know, 40 years ago, people met each other in nightclubs, and a couple of minutes into chatting, they might be, you know, snogging, and before you know it, maybe you're back in their place with somebody that you don't know. That's how life was. You know, you go to work, people will smoke around you, you go in a club, people ask you for a light for your cigarette. Those things now seem totally alien to us, and that's how society's changed. And things like viruses could and maybe will change the way we behave as a species, if you like. You know, over the last sort of 10 years, there's been huge changes in the way. You know, 10 years ago, if you'd have said to me, you go in a pub and you don't pay with cash, you just flash a card and it pays for it, you know, I'd have looked at you and said, you know, something from Star Trek. You know, and the dating scene, people very rarely meet someone from the opposite sex without meeting them online. So all these fundamental changes have occurred, you know, gradually over the last sort of 40 years. But I just kind of feel that something like this, which is going to have such a huge effect, is going to affect people's psyche. And I know governments are trying to put as positive a spin on it as possible, and things will be back to how they were, you know, in another 5 months, another 6 months. Who knows? They can't answer those questions. I know that the sort of bailouts that governments all over the world have had to do, because this virus has just come from nowhere and no one's been prepared for it, and the effect of nobody going out shopping, nobody being allowed to go in bars and restaurants and cinemas, the effect of that is immediate, and people have still got bills to pay, and mortgages to pay, and staff to pay. So governments have acted pretty swiftly, but how long are they going to be able to keep propping up an economy that probably, hasn't got a future in the way we used to have our lives? Who knows? I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying this to depress anybody. I just sometimes you watch sort of science fiction films and you see how societies are, and you think, God, our society's never going to be like that. But sometimes things happen that trigger changes, wholesale changes in society, and maybe, one thing I think about is will there be another virus next year or the year after, or in 10 years that is just as bad as this, and how will our government react to that? Will they be more prepared? Will businesses and governments always be thinking in the back of the mind, we need to prepare for another virus? Because the consequences of this are going to last maybe a generation, far worse than the banking crisis. In the UK, the schools are closing on Friday, and that's got a huge implication on parents who in the past maybe used grandparents to look after their kids, but they're not going to be able to do that now because grandparents are really at risk. So there's a few of my thoughts about the coronavirus, maybe a little bit deep, but I do a lot of bit of thinking about these things, and you don't always come to the right conclusions, but I don't think I'm going to be far off with this, but who knows? Hopefully in another 10 months, next Christmas, we'll have all forgotten about it and we'll all be enjoying 2021, but who knows? Even Glastonbury is getting cancelled, so where's it going to end? So getting back to the records, hope you enjoyed what I showed. I've got a lot of new releases that I wanted to use for another video, maybe pick up a few more. I've got about 6 new albums from this year, and I've been really enjoying listening to them. Very different to the sort of music I've been showing on this video. So if you've got any comments about what I said about the coronavirus, about my records, I'll always get back to you. Great part of the VC. So thanks for watching this video, and bye for now.